Hello, welcome back. In this playlist, we will try to share DP-700 exam related question and answer. So if you are planning to clear Microsoft Certified Fabric Data Engineering Associate, you could go through this playlist and you will find many questions related to this exam. Now, if you want to buy our paid course, you could find our course in Udemy, and I will share the discounted link in the description and in the comment section. And this course covers many on-demand videos and one practice test. So we will cover many questions related to DP-700 exam, which includes some case study also. And this course comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and lifetime access with certification of completion. Now, if you don't want to buy, still you could support us by subscribing and liking this video. So let's go to the questions. Now let's discuss a different topic, and it's very popular topic also, Azure DevOps integration. We have multiple courses, or we already published multiple courses to cover how we could integrate Azure Data Factory with Azure DevOps. But we didn't cover how we could integrate Fabric with the DevOps. We will try to cover it. Let's go through some questions. Assume you are working for Step2C Corp, and Step2C Corp want to automate deployment of data pipeline and lakehouse asset to multiple fabric workspace using Azure DevOps. The team need to ensure consistency across environment. That means dev environment, test environment, prod environment. What is the best approach to implement this deployment strategy? So we will use Azure DevOps for the deployment related task. That means if you want to integrate or if you want to develop a CI/CD related work approach, you could use Azure DevOps. So let's check the options. And the right answer is use Azure DevOps pipeline integrated with Fabric REST API and parameterized template. So the right answer is option C. And by using Azure DevOps, you could integrate it. So using Azure DevOps pipeline and parameterized deployment template and Fabric REST API allows Step2C Corp to automate multiple environment deployment. That means if you have a dev environment and if you develop something, you could deploy the changes to UAT environment, and from the UAT you could deploy the changes to prod environment using Azure DevOps. Now let's check few more questions regarding DevOps. Assume you are working for Step2C Corp, and Step2C Corp need to securely store and access credential for connecting to Microsoft Fabric from Azure DevOps. They want to avoid hard coding credential in the pipeline YAML file. What is the best practice to managing credential in this case? So there are, and it's very popular question also. So the concept is very simple. If you want to access something very securely using Azure DevOps or from Fabric also, you could use Azure keyword. So if the question contain want to access securely something, most probably the answer will be using something related to Azure keyword, because the service Azure keyword we will use to store credentials and to access the credential securely. So the answer is use Azure keyword, which is option C is the right answer. And Azure keyword integrate with Azure DevOps, and the best practice to manage secret and securely access during pipeline is to use Azure keyword instead of hard coding them. So instead of saving the details in YAML file, you should use Azure keyword. Save the credential in keyword and access the keyword from DevOps. So let's go to next question. Now this question is focusing on service related principle. So the question is Step2C Corp is setting up CI/CD pipeline in Azure DevOps to deploy Fabric data pipeline across dev, test and production environment. The DevOps team need to automate API call to Microsoft Fabric without relying on personal user credential. What is the most secure and scalable way to authenticate this API call from Azure DevOps? And the right answer is option B, register a service principal in Azure AD and grant it to access Microsoft Fabric related services. So service principal provide a secure and managed identity for application or service like Azure DevOps, and it is the recommended method for automating Fabric access. So if you want to grant access, try to use service principal. Now let's take one more question regarding those topics. Assume you are working for Step2C Corp and you are a data engineer. Say Step2C Corp data engineering team is building a Fabric Lakehouse solution. As part of their DevOps workflow, they want Azure DevOps pipeline to trigger Fabric pipeline deployment using REST API call. They need fine-grained access control and non-interactive authentication. Which authentication method should they use? And the right answer is option B, use Azure Service Principal with the required API permission to Fabric. So only Azure Service approach support the interactive, secure and scalable API authentication. So we should try to use Service Principal approach. Let's go to few more questions. Now this question is asking us to use Service Principal instead of PAT, Personal Access Token. So the question is, assume you are working for Step2C Corp and Step2C Corp noticed that their DevOps automation script failed in between when triggering Fabric Workspace update. On reviewing, they found that automation was using a PAT or Personal Access Token of a user who recently left the company. How should Step2C Corp redesign their authentication model for reliability and enterprise best practice? So the right answer is we should try to replace the PAT with the Service Principal and assign to Fabric Workspace permission. And Service Principal are not tied to human account, making them and more resilient to employee related issues. So what we try to cover is, if you want to automate the deployment, you could try to use Azure DevOps, and to make the access more secure, you could try to use Azure Key Vault. Similarly, to grant access, you could use Service Principal instead of PAT also, and we could expect questions based on any of this concept. So all these are important. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.